A very good morning to you. Welcome to the Morning Brief right here on Channels Television. It's a Friday edition of the program. And of course, we're broadcasting live from the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
Of course, we're here in Lagos, and to start off, somebody needs to hear this. Hope may not be a strategy. It is the very thread that holds to the next breath of life. So hang on and welcome to that perfect morning starter that helps you do just that. The Morning Brief on Channels Television. I am Bukola Koka. Hi, Kayode.
Well, in Nigeria, hope is a governor. The brother, renewed hope, is the mantra of this administration. Pun intended. But good morning from the nation's capital, Abuja. I'm Kayode Okikilu.
All right, guys, it's a brand new day, but the weekend is upon us. A lot happened in the last 24 hours across board. But, guys, what are you tracking, Bukola?
Well, Jeffrey, of course, one of the stories, the biggest stories in the last couple of months is that which, well, every Nigerian will tag Natasha versus Akpabio from the upper chamber of Nigeria's National Assembly. What has emerged yesterday, compels attention in every sense of the word. The suit filed by the federal government that has now been served, I believe, on the senator representing Kogi Central. And of course, another reason, why it commands attention is because, the circumstances in which that was mentioned in that suit, of course, took place on our own sister station during the interview that she granted. And if you read that summons, you would have seen that, the conversation was sort of transcribed. But more importantly, this has been, long running, particularly when you reflect on the dimensions to this story. The certain Professor Mbeke who went on a Facebook Live and made all sorts of allegations, and a counter-allegation, by another individual from another platform alleging, that, the professor wanted to induce him, to go against the senator. And one wonders where the truth lies in all of this. The truth may have been mired in strong interests of either of the individuals involved. But where will it all end? And don't forget the many suits, other, cases in court about this sexual harassment allegation. But that's one of the biggest stories. Jeffrey.
Yeah, it's a very, okay, this is the third time I'm seeing something that is very concerning for me and disappointing for me. I know that when the suspension of elected officials, I'm indifferent about state of emergency, but when it came to the suspension of elected officials, House of Assembly and all of that, I did say that the AGF Lateef Fagbemi, a very senior lawyer in the country, very respected one, I disagreed with him on the advice of the president and the logic. When I listened to him, I listened to him attentively to make legal sense. For me, it didn't make any legal sense that time. It didn't make no legal sense. It was just logic. And when we talk about such things, you have to stick to the law. So I was quite disappointed. And then the issue of shadow cabinets between Patutomi and the DSS. And Patutomi had explained, I was on Politics Today. Mr. Felix Moka had also come to say, okay, now I understand what he's saying, but we saw the DSS swooping. That was very worrying as well. But the jury is out there. And now to see that the federal government has taken on this case. So for the record, the AGF hasn't done anything illegal. The FCT is looked at as a state. And if you see that case, it was filed at the federal FCT High Court in that sense. Godswill Akpabio, Yahaya Bello were all nominal complainants. The principal complainant here is the federal government as a protector in that sense. So the AGF hasn't done anything illegal, but this is what happens. Perhaps Akpabio had launched the case that this woman I said I wanted to assassinate her to the police. Police investigated. So the AGF in a criminal case, from the understanding I got from the lawyers, has a right to take on any case from anywhere. Now, since the FCT, is not a state in that sense, that's why Nyesom Wike doesn't present budget, he defends, the president does that. The AGF took up that case. I would have expected the AGF to advise Mr. Godswill Akpabio Senate President and former Governor Yahaya Bello and everybody involved to file a civil suit in that sense, not the state itself taking on that. So I said, again, there is nothing illegal about the state taking it on by law, from what I understand with the lawyers. But not the
character of the state.
Yes.
Being impugned upon, so but the character of an individual who is the Senate President of the... Precisely.
Yes, what is the public interest? So I cited the issue of the AGF making logic over legal sense when it came to suspension of elected officials. I cited the issue of DSS versus Utomi, where we raised concern about being concerned about using the institution of state for dissenting voices. That is how it is perceived. The government of APC must understand that perception is critical. And then now, for a case between two people, a complainant, when the AGF he has a right to take on the case, a criminal case, he has a right, there's no doubt, there's nothing illegal. But the optics is bad for this government. He should have advised Senator Godswill Akpabio and Yahaya Bello, say, you guys take this, somebody is alleging that you want to assassinate the person. Why don't you take on the case? Why should the state? We already have an issue about dissenting voice. So it will now look like the government is using the institution of state to fight dissenting voice. Don't forget, besides the sexual harassment, Natasha Akpoti is a member of the PDP and she's very vocal. So this is not looking good at all. And again, I'm disappointed that the AGF has to take this on. But I have a lot of respect for him as chief lawmaker. That's my position.
Well, that's the beauty of democracy, guys. Everybody gets to have their say, but not everyone gets to have the day. Really, there's a point that democracy becomes authoritarian in that sense when the majority gets to exercise the authority, or at least the one who wields the most power gets to have the authority and have the day in that sense. Well, the government will give you reasons upon reasons, whether it makes sense logically or legally, as to why the state of emergency was declared, the budget passing was not done right, the impasse, the potential for violence, and the lawyers and the people will give you all of the reasons why this does not make sense to them. That's the beauty of democracy. All in all, I hope that we're not also losing sight of all of the legs of democracy or democratic governance in Nigeria. Because what happens is, with all of the attention on Abuja, rightly so, as I always say, what then happens to the sub-nationals? It looks like they're also beneficiaries of this, because while we aim towards May the 29th, the midterm for the president, June for the lawmakers, the governors are also meant to celebrate midterm in that sense in the coming days. But is there a lot to celebrate? That, for me, is what I am tracking this morning. But, hey, let's dive deeper into what we have on the show this morning. And we're starting off, as you would expect, in Rivers State. We've given a lot of pointers to that already, where President Bola Tinubu has proposed a 1.4 trillion naira budget for the state to the National Assembly. We'll be joined by Mr. Jacob Pele to discuss the implications of the action.
And while there are quite a number of concerns about what's happening in the polity, the political situation, insecurity, and the likes, the opposition is not, resting on its oars, so to speak. So we take a look at this talk about coalition. Where is it headed? Who are the actors involved in this coalition? And what platform, perhaps that's the biggest question about the coalition, what platform, what political party would be advanced, to funnel and express the interests of these individuals who want to send President Bola Tinubu back to Lagos in 2027. So that's another big conversation that we're set for on the program this morning. Jeffrey, you have the next one.
Okay, I think I'm trying to get to the next one. So let's talk about politics. The former vice chairman of the ruling party, Saliu Lukman, who is planning to form a coalition that could potentially wrestle power from the APC. We'll bring him on to speak about this issue, talk about coalition and many other issues as well. Yes,
and of course we also have, faith, culture on the lineup this morning. Have you heard that popular tune that has taken the internet by storm? Well, we have the author of that tune joining us on the program this morning. Gaise Baba is our guest this morning, and we're excited about it. Kayode, you have the next one.
Oh, yes, quite a lot to unpack for you this morning. We have decided certainly to give you a great show right here on Channels Television. So if you're ready, I think we could just get started with the dailies, and we'll be back for more on that.
Okay, let's get straight to what the papers are saying this morning. Where do we start from? I think let's start from the Guardian newspaper this morning. The Guardian is leading with 2027 already. Opposition kicks as Tinubu hails defections, APC endorsement. Opposition kicks as Tinubu hails defection, APC endorsement. Yesterday was quite a scenario, quite a scene. The All Progressives Congress had their national summit, and basically they're giving their scorecard midterm performance evaluation of the administration of Bola Tinubu, and the governors actually said we're satisfied with the midterm. They railed out their reasons, and of course the members of the National Assembly, the NWC, all of them agreed with the review done so far. They acknowledge the fact that certain things are left to be done in the future, but now they believe that the economy especially is in the right trajectory, and the bold decision of the president, so they decided to give him a second term. Already we are not even actively in the midterm, so that is what is causing all the furore in this sense. But the issue of defection, he mentioned it. In fact, when he started his speech, he said, let me say it before I forget it. You can't stop people from moving to where they want to move to. It's their right. As I'm concerned, I don't want to bother myself as a journalist and as somebody who covers politics over politicians defecting. Politicians in Nigeria, political parties in Nigeria don't have ideologies. So as long as that is agreed, there's no point stressing them over where they want to go. I think so far, since the APC was formed, from the formation of APC, so if you calculate from Amechi and his people that defected from PDP to APC, about 5 of them, they can add Matawale in that mix somewhere. You add Devumai, Ben Ayade, and Oborowore, and maybe other people coming. APC has gotten about 9 to 10 governors so far that are actually moved into the APC, not that they won election, but they moved from PDP and APC, although APC has lost some of those states, like Kano and all of that. So that's why the opposition is kicking. I think the opposition should just put their house in order. Put their house in order at the end of the day, and then see whether people will not move to your own party. There was a time PDP had about almost 30 states in that sense. So, but we understand the importance of opposition, and some of us have been clamoring we cannot allow opposition collapse, else it's not going to be good for democracy.
Well, there's a lot to reflect on that one. But Kayode, you have the next one.
Oh, yes, let's take a look at the Vanguard newspaper, and Vanguard follows just with that story. This is coming from President Tinubu saying, I'm expecting more defections to APC. 22 governors adopt him as sole APC candidate, and all of the other breakdowns of this story. You see on page 12, defect with me or resign. Governor Eno tells appointees, it's a page 12 read on Vanguard newspaper, and the security, of course, what we're doing to secure Nigeria, because after all of the talks about politics, the outcome of it is what stares everyone in the face, right? So it's important to put all of these things in context. But it's quite interesting hearing some of the things said at that APC meeting yesterday. A lot of it will unpack definitely for you. I imagine in the coming days, maybe even weeks, we'll still be unpacking that, because it coincides almost with the president's midterm. And as I said, the reality or the outcome of the politics is staring a lot of Nigerians in the face. That's the Vanguard newspaper for you.
Well, it's the same story that catches the attention of Blueprint newspaper this morning, Kayode and Jeffrey. And I kind of like the way the Blueprint, chooses to craft it. And listen to this. Nothing is wrong with a one-party state. Tinubu tells critics, you are our sole candidate. That's the first of the riders. Ganduje, APC, NAS, caucus, governors declare. Ribado explains breakthrough in security. Idris rules out cabal. Governor Eno, 23 Akwa Ibom lawmakers set to join APC in June. That's the third of the riders. I'm sure you're not surprised about that. And Jeffrey went on about, political parties having no ideology. But more importantly, if you walked down memory lane to 2007, between 1999 and 2007, and recall that the current president is himself the symbol of opposition, and his sagacity, his ability to stand as a lone voice in the wilderness when the PDP swept the southwest states that were in the opposition. You would be surprised that the president can take a stance. Recall his words from the APC summit yesterday when he said there's nothing wrong with a one-party state that drives the aspirations of Nigerians. So that's, a former figure of opposition who stood strong, in the most difficult circumstances, saying this. And apart from that, is really the APC the party that is driving the collective aspirations of Nigerians, or the collective aspirations of the elite few? I think those are the questions that we should be reflecting on. And of course, we'll be putting them through to the person that should answer
so there's
this morning.
There's a lot to talk about as far as this is concerned. At the end of the day, well, he spoke as a politician. You can't take that away from him. He's a politician. Everybody will speak as a politician in that sense. So there's nothing wrong with their position. It's for Nigerian citizens to agree or disagree. So I don't argue with you when you speak as politicians. But we know a one-party system is not healthy for democracy. It's just common sense. Everybody knows that. So, but of course, it's in the moment and he has to enjoy it because others had their time too. But let's get to this, what you're saying on the front pages of the social media. Of course, that point where the APC National Assembly members endorsed President Bola Tinubu for 2027. We'll consider a moment in just a moment.
On behalf of the whole entire 109 senators, 360 members, and all the 36 speakers and their members, to second this very important motion moved by the Senate President Asosakon. Distinguished colleagues, right honorable members, members of the houses of assemblies across Nigeria, those in support of the motion, seconded rightly by the right honorable speaker, Tajuddin Abbas, PhD, GCON, those in support, give me your voice and say, ah. And those against say nay.
So let me tell you what just happened there. These are representatives of Nigerians. So in essence, it's like they're saying that, well, on behalf of the people we represent, we're endorsing President Bola Tinubu for second term, right? So the representatives, at least the ones in the ruling party, the APC, and perhaps the ones about to join the APC, because the president of the Senate yesterday said that there was one lawmaker in his vehicle from a party who was begging to join the APC. So perhaps the significance of all of that. I will break it down, as we've said time and again on the show. But there were more issues discussed at that meeting. In fact, when the president took the podium, he said quite a number of things. But one of the trending stories that he spoke to was the recovered estate, said to be from former CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele. The president actually touched on that as well. So take a listen to what President Bola Tinubu had to say about that.
Of corruption. You could see FCC recovering over 750 something houses from one person. Locally here. Yes, we encountered challenges when we assumed office in May 2023. But we have made progress by implementing difficult, long overdue, but necessary economic reforms.
Well, some have said that if the searchlight is beamed properly into this government, members of the ruling party, as we've seen some of the court cases and indictments, there may be more discoveries, locally, or as the president puts it. But still speaking about local issues, petrol, the price of petrol has come down marginally yet again. Dangote Refinery has slashed petrol prices from 905 naira to 875 naira per litre. And of course, that depends on the location. So that's a breakdown of the filling stations and, you know, across locations in the country. So basically, pick your location and hope that that's the price you'll find there. Is this enough? Of course, your guess is as good as mine. Certainly not for the everyday Nigerian, because for them, or maybe let me just say for Bukola, myself, and every other Nigerian, would like to see that 500. Guys, realistic?
Why am I not surprised? I was expecting Bukola to drop from your commentary there. Well, it's cheery to note, but not as cheery for a number of Nigerians who are even unable to afford to power their generators. They are better past my neighbor. You know, to preserve the simplest of things, maybe 400 naira per litre would be more realistic. But how far are we from that, or we will ever get to that? Let's go to other talking points this time around. Okay, we'll touch down on that and take a break. When we return, we'll take a look at, you know, one of the very big stories for this morning. We'll head to River State, and you don't want to miss that conversation, so stay with us. Welcome back. As I said earlier, in what seems to be an executive overreach, what many have termed an executive overreach, President Bola Tinubu has presented a budget for River State for 2025 of over 1 trillion naira before the National Assembly. Of course, we know events preceding this, the declaration of a state of emergency, for which many legal practitioners have frowned on, but depending on which side you belong to. Of course, some have also lauded that position taken by President Bola Tinubu. So what are the legal implications of this latest move by the president? And beyond that, how are River State citizens, you know, taking this? And joining us for this conversation is Mr. Jake Epele, founder of TAF Africa, and indeed a River citizen himself. Good morning, and thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Epele, on the program.
Good morning. Thank you for having me, beautiful Bukola.
Initial thoughts, first of all, on this move by the president. Of course, before we begin to talk about the state of things itself between you know, the Minister of the FCT and suspended Governor Fubara. Let's have your thoughts on the presentation of this budget.
Well, President Bola Tinubu has made history, but I think this time on the wrong side of history. This unprecedented move is very worrisome because this is the first time a sitting president, please correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time a sitting president is presenting the budget of a state because of the void in the democratic structure of that state created by this going to push the so-called sole administrator to do this. And I think they realized, because many of us called on them to examine the legality of a non-elected individual overseeing an elected office which is the institution of a state, you know. And so your guess is as good as mine. Anybody who wants to believe that this is justified has a lot to tell us about the principles of democracy and making sure that an elected individual will administer a state that elected him. Like I said, the president has made history, but I think he's on the wrong side of history by presenting this budget, 1.481 trillion naira. Who is going to administer this? Who? An individual that is not elected by the people is going to spend the people's taxpayers' money? You know, I mean, Nigeria, I think we need to write our own democratic or political science book, which I think will be a very bad New York seller, you know. So this is where we are. It's unfortunate that, again, the good people of River State are bearing this brunt, this democratic rascality. You know, the good people of River State are bearing it, and it's very disheartening. And many times this is what makes me shed tears, because this is not who we are, and this shouldn't happen to us. You know, and a lot of people call me a crying analyst. I make no apologies. I'm being burdened by the injustice that Rivers people are suffering. And any Rivers person, true Rivers person, who endorses this evil, we need to think twice whether that person is truly a Rivers person.
All right, Mr. Pele, so there's a lot to unpack on this one, but there are other layers we also look at. I know that by Section 121, the governor is supposed to present it, or a representative of him, but the president also has to present. Elected officials have to present. Perhaps that's the reason why they had to backtrack, looking like the fact that, oh, this would be bad legally for the sole administrator to do so. So the president has to do it himself. Just a smart way around what is playing out, because the issue is still an issue under contention, even at the Supreme Court, to make a determination as to the powers in terms of discretional latitude of 301 when we benchmark that on 11.5 of the Constitution. But my interest, which I'd like you to speak to, is how all of this can come to an end. In the last few weeks, we've seen, this is about 2 months plus since the administrator took over, and he's not been able to account. This is the fourth largest budget at the subnational level. Lagos 3.2 or 3.3, 1.7 for the FCT, 1.5 for Niger State, and this from Rivers 1.4. I think Ogun is another 1.0 something trillion. So this is the fourth largest budget away from the federal government at the subnational level. But we have observed, I personally have observed, that the governor had come out to say, look, don't speak for me if I didn't give you clearance. More like, you're escalating the issue I'm trying to de-escalate, I think, at a forum. And Nyesom Wike, the FCT minister, said, look, he felt for the man, he's called him my son. I can't fight him, I'm fighting people around him. So it looks like the rhetoric of aggression is beginning to taper. You are an insider. You were at a town hall when things almost escalated. Besides all that is going on, is there something going on behind the scene that gives a bit of glimmer of hope that this is about to be over in any shape or form?
Jeffrey, you have touched on a very sensitive issue for me personally. And because I say that because I am from Opopo. And many times I have seen the injustice that is done, not because he's an Opopo man, but to the person of similar life for Barak. Whatever he tries to say, he has a right to say it. And many times what he says is just a political statement. However, let me make it very clear that the office of the governor of Rivers State is bigger than my brother, Sim. He knows it. The mandate of the people is bigger than his own personal interests. I believe he knows it too. You know? Yeah. So you know, but not representing that office and the people. You know, whatever deal he wants to make, he has a right to make those deals as long as it does not border on the people of the state and the mandate that the people have given him. You know, so I have a right to express my opinion on the national television as long as I'm guided by moral principles and most times the legal undertone. So that said, if I go to the public square and say that Jake Epele is a madman, you know, that doesn't make me a madman. I can come home and laugh at that because I wanted to get attention or I wanted to make an expression. So I just want to give clarification on this. Now, Fubara can say whatever he likes. And you know, politicians, they say what they don't mean sometimes, you know. But however, let's be clear that the people of Rivers State support the elected governor of the state, not necessarily the personality behind it, but the office. This is a revered office. This is one that we collectively, whether anybody would doubt the process which brought him to power, he's gone through every strata of scrutiny, including the Supreme Court. So he is our elected governor, you know, and so he cannot. Let me also be very clear on this. You know, I don't work personally for Fubara, so he cannot tell me not to defend the people. He doesn't. Let me also be very clear. Fubara had never, not one time, sent Jake Epele to go and defend him. I don't have that time. I'm not that. I'm Jeffrey. I'm 64. He cannot tell me what to do. He's a younger brother to me. Whether he's a political son to Wike, and let's be clear. If you consider this individual your political son, why do you have to drag him so much into the mud to get to where we are? And now you're saying he's your political son. Please, that's fine. You know, the important thing is, when I say that's fine, that's not an endorsement, okay? But the important thing here now is if this will lead to a genuine peace process outcome, yes, we can go ahead and go for it if it will lead. But let me also sound a note of warning to Fubara and everybody around him. Don't negotiate things that will put the state in jeopardy. Because I know you, my good friend and brother, you're not as ambitious as some of the other people around you. You are not as desperate as they are. You want to serve the people. It's on record that since Fubara started till today, to the best of my knowledge, he's been doing all this project without a loan. He left over 250 or 60 billion for this administrator who collected another 400 billion. My question, Jeffrey, is who is and who will hold him accountable? Can he boldly, in all honesty, and I challenge him today, publish how you have spent money since you assumed office? I'm not saying what I don't do. Go to my website. You will see my account and annual report and account published on my website. It shows you who gave me money as an organization, how I spent that money. So, you know, and I'm not a public servant per se, but I work for the public because
but Mr. Pele,
CAC.
Jeffrey rightly, referred to you being an insider, and perhaps you could give us information about what exactly is going on. And against that backdrop, the appropriateness of the presentation of this budget by Mr. President, because we recall reports that the suspended Governor Fubara had met with the president during his vacation, and after that, the report also came through about him meeting with, his political godfather, brokered by two governors of the APC, in which he reportedly ate the humble pie in a very, very humbling manner, if you catch my meaning. And after that, reports are to the effect that there's a reconciliation, in process, and the declaration of a state of emergency in Rivers State may be lifted earlier than even the 6-month period. So what are you hearing about the direction of this reconciliation move, and why the president has had to present the budget in the first place?
Bukola, what I was trying to do was to dissect some of the components of Jeffrey's questions. But first of all, let me correct an impression. When you say I'm an insider, one, I'm not a politician. I'm strictly apolitical. If you say I'm an insider from the perspective of a citizen and an elder statesman, if I will be called so in Rivers matter, yes, I am an insider. But my being an insider is on the surface politically because I don't have access to many of them. I don't even have unfettered access to Fubara. I think I've met Fubara in my life and through as a governor. I think I've met him 3 times, and that's it. And those 3 times meeting, the first one lasted just about an hour. The second one lasted just about 45 minutes. The third one was the shortest meeting. It lasted less than 5 minutes. So I'm not an insider into in that sense in Fubara's camp or Wike. But yes, I go out, I feel the pulse of the people. I'm a proud member of Ijaw National Congress. Those are the steps that I've taken to get information. And so back to your question, and to speak specifically, I don't have the insider knowledge of the peace process. I wasn't in the meeting. I don't have the detail of what has come out of that. But what I can tell you for sure is that there is an ongoing peace process and dialogue that is going on closed doors. However, the outcome is what is not in the public domain. There is no doubt that I can confirm that Fubara has met FCT minister in a such humbling and what I would describe as a little bit humiliating manner. But they talked, they met, they hugged, they laughed at each other, they laughed with each other. But this is what they need to do. There has to be sincerity of purpose in this whole process. There has to be sincerity of purpose. I had expected that in the president's presentation of the budget, maybe he would do it in the few coming days. He would have given us a roadmap to restoring the governor, to saying, okay, 29th May is around the corner. This man would have been celebrating, I think, his 3rd year or in office, so to speak, But look at
second year.
It's come with all kinds of second year. I'm sorry. Thank you, Bukola. The older you become, the weak your memory, but I don't have that. So the point is, we need to know the detail of what they are discussing. Fubara must know and should know that whatever he goes indoor to negotiate can take a toll on the people of Rivers State. I think there's a need for him to continue to dialogue with people that he can trust, elders of the state. Let's not make the same mistake that was made in rushing to meet with the president to sign what would have become what today is taunting him. Let's not repeat that history. So there's a need for him to engage with people that he can trust. And Bukola, there's something that is very worrisome for me. It is the fact that there are people that have stood by Fubara, supported him, took the insult from the other camp, and vice versa. I think everybody should be carried along. The FCT minister should stop making statements like trying to sort of technically insult the people that had supported Fubara and tell them that they were the one responsible for where Fubara is now. What would they do for him? You know, as long as that looks like truth, but there's certain truths that you don't tell because it will not heal. You know, any truth that does not heal will hurt. So I think it's important to tone down the rhetorics and pursue this peace holistically. Both camps needs to be there to discuss issues so that we don't keep going back and forth. You know, by the time you bring Fubara home and he is now part of you, and then you're telling him that all the people who have spent their entire life trying to support him doesn't matter anymore, there will be no peace. So holistic peace should be possible.
All right. We must anchor at this point. We hope indeed that there will be peace. And there are so many other sides to this that we could have explored. But clearly, it's an ongoing conversation. We must thank you very much at this point. We've been talking with Mr. Jake Pele, the CEO and founder of TAF Africa, who joined us virtually on this particular conversation. Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you, Bukola. And I want to use this opportunity to please call on every party to please come to the table with sincerity of purpose and realize that it is the people that suffer the most.
A fine place to leave it there. Thank you very much once again. And from this point, there's more politics to talk about. This time, what is this about the coalition talks and where is it headed? Stay with us for this one coming up after this time out. Welcome back. We're not done with politics yet, and as 2027 draws near, it is trite, particularly maybe for the opposition to begin to look at its strategy. But there's also that talk about the appropriateness of it all, particularly for the ruling party. So what is the strategy of those actors of this coalition? Joining us for this conversation this time is Mr. Salihu Lukman, former National Vice Chairman, Northwest of the All Progressives Congress. Mr. Lukman joins us virtually from Abuja. Thank you very much, Mr. Lukman, for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much.
And just before we start off the conversation, it's important to also point out that the spokesman of the All Progressives Congress will be joining us after this particular conversation. But as we start off, Mr. Lukman, what may be uppermost in the minds of Nigerians is what is the stage of this coalition? At what stage is it particularly? And perhaps you want to give us clarity because there are a lot of permutations about, you know, who is going to be vice presidential candidate, who is going to be presidential candidate. Help us clarify all of these.
Well, thank you very much. First, I think it's important to say that we are basically at the concluding stage of finalizing the negotiation in terms of how we want to contest the 2027 election. You know, basically the question of on what platform are we going to contest. We went through a very painstaking negotiation, I will say, which took us more than a year, actually. And the basic reality is the fact that at the moment, none of the parties, including even the ruling party, and I'm happy the spokesperson, my fellow friend, Felix Moka, will come afterwards. I'm conscious of that. I'm saying so deliberately and consciously. The ruling party as it is today does not, and in the case with virtually all the parties that exist, does not represent the classical organization of a party. Any party that cannot respect its own constitution, meetings of organs are not taking place, it's not a party. And any party whose elected representative are not accountable to the party is not a party. It's not a party in the classical sense. And this is the dilemma Nigerians are faced with. And I will say, having been a founding member of the APC, I know the inspiration that drove us from the formation of the APC, which was basically to correct all the problems the PDP was presenting to the country. And what were the problems? The basic problem was that at that time, PDP created a political culture in which basically it's imposition at all levels. Internal contest within the party was completely truncated. And APC came with the promise of change. And these were the things APC wanted to change. To be fair to APC, in 2014, when we did the primary at all levels, which ended with the presidential primary in December, I think December 10, 2014, you will say that there was contest. And there was fair contest. Those who won were those who contested the election on the platform of APC. But as we moved down the line from 2019 downwards, things began to degenerate. And as you can see now, and I hope Felix Moka will respond to this, APC has moved from a party that was envisioned to be a progressive party to almost a party that is now envisioned to become a monarchy. Because as it is now, the APC mantra is that in 2027, there will be no election, there will be no internal contest. The president is adopted, all their governors are adopted, and House legislators are also adopted. But let me move to the main issue about what we are doing in terms of the coalition. The first thing we did, having recognized the fact that the major crisis we have as a nation in terms of our democracy, the fact that we don't have political parties, we said, okay, let's see how we can, the best option would have been to register a new party. And of course, at the moment, and this is the reality, there are more than 70 applications lying in INEC unprocessed. So we saw that clearly there is almost a state-managed process whereby we'll get to 2027, there will be no party that can oppose the ruling party. On the basis of which we now had to come back and start looking at the possibility of looking at an existing party, negotiate with them, and see if we can have an agreement to transform the party. And we set clear conditions. Some of the conditions include that there has to be complete leadership change of the party. There has to be complete reorientation, including even changing the constitution of the party, so that we are not taking over a party just for the purpose of contesting election and defeating the current government. We want to present to Nigerians a new reality which will address all the frustrations. For instance, the question of internal contest, and this is the backbone of the negotiation. We want to ensure that internally inside the new party, there will be contest, and the winners will be the candidates of the party. And beyond that, we want to set up new orientation in terms of ensuring that when people win election, they are accountable to the party. It's not to become so that the elected representative become like the new emperors who now own the party and they will dictate to leaders of the party. So this is the roadmap we have set for ourselves, and the negotiation is almost at the
All right, Mr. Lukman, if I may, I'm happy that you're landing to say the negotiation is almost concluded. So I wondered, as though you looked through my notes, I wanted to find out what is actually limiting or stopping this coalition in that sense. Because I see that if there is a coalition without the PDP bloc, I don't know how far reaching that coalition can go. Just a political calculation. PDP still has about 10 or so governors, about that number of governors or more, just around that number. They have they are the lead opposition both at the Senate and as well as the House of Representatives. But the governors who are perhaps the strongest pressure group in the PDP have said, look, count us out of some of this coalition talk. In fact, people are speculating that some of the governors are working for the APC, others are, there are all kinds of conversations. So my question to you is, as it stands now, what is stopping this coalition from coming to fruition? Because the APC is looking and said, you guys are not serious.
There is nothing stopping the coalition from coming to fruition. Like I said, we have gone through painstaking process. And I can tell you, you are wrong to say the PDP bloc is not there. The PDP bloc is there, and even when the governors claim, for instance, that they are not part of the coalition, I mean, we responded clearly. Some of them, as you have seen, it is either they have already moved to the APC, some of them, or they are on their way to move to the APC. So clearly they are doing the bidding of the APC and the Asuwaju government. So we are not bothered about that. But to the main point, we have the PDP bloc in the coalition, and there is nothing that is stopping the coalition. Like I said, we are going through a painstaking process so that once we come out, and very soon, it will even be sooner than people expect, we are going to come out and we will clarify all the details in terms of the orientation of the coalition, the decision in terms of how we are going to contest the 2027 election, and the leaders of the coalition. All those will be known.
All right. I'd like to ask this before my next question. You resigned from the APC in 2024, July, I believe, and you said you were returning to the trenches to begin working with committed Nigerians. But you didn't quite clarify where you were headed in terms of, political platform. What's your role in this coalition, and which party do you belong to now, if you want to clarify that? And then Nigerians are asking, okay, answer that first of all before I move on to the next one.
Well, first, when I said I'm going back to the trenches, we are right now in the trenches. That is what is occupying us doing the negotiation. My being in politics is not like a career that I have to be in a party. I mean, the most important issue is that we came into politics with clear vision. We have an idea of the kind of society we want, and we were clear that the only route to get that kind of society is to have democracy, which was why we committed ourselves and fought against the military to get them out of power and have the current democracy. And having got the democracy, of course, we made mistakes, because in 1998, 1999, we decided we are not joining politics, we are not going to be part of any party, and that was the big mistake we made, Now, many of us tried to correct that mistake way down the line from 2003 to 2007 by becoming active politically. And having recognized, I mean, when I was part, I mean, to be fair, I'm not going to claim to say I'm the first to start advocating for merger of opposition party that led to the formation of APC, but I was among the first. I was very active in that. And we were very clear, the vision that drove the negotiation which led to the formation of APC, which was why even when I was an appointee of governors elected on the platform of APC, I could do what I did as a member of the party, believing that once the party degenerates, then we lose the moral credential to continue to talk to Nigerians about the vision that led to the formation of APC. And once I saw that the promises we made about renewed hope and all the expectation about President Asuaju coming to correct some of the what we see as the departing point under former President Buhari. I mean, I don't need anybody to tell me. I had to now take that decision, and having taken that decision, the belief is that we have to now work with like-minded Nigerians to begin to now correct the big deficit of our democracy.
All right, so Dr. Lukman, so you do not belong to any, if I get your drift, you do not belong to any particular political party now, but you are
I'm not a
key actor of the coalition.
I beg your pardon?
You're a key actor in the coalition.
Well, however I want to put it, whether a laborer or a key actor, I'm in the coalition. I take instruction from leaders of the coalition.
All right. So you say that talks in the coalition have been nearly concluded. But events are to the contrary when you consider the sentiments, you know, coming from members of the political parties that may feature in this coalition. For instance, the presidential candidate of the SDP, Mr. Adewale Adebayo, was quoted as saying recently on our sister political platform that El-Rufai has not asked him to step down. And it was doubtful also his response about the possibility, you know, of stepping down for any other presidential candidate as well. So my question is, how are you managing those interests? Because even your statement acknowledges that, candidates must be willing to sacrifice their political ambition. So how are you managing the interests of leaders of the SDP, of the ADC as well, that is purportedly said to be the platform that would be used to advance the interests of the coalition? How are you managing those political interests?
Well, in terms of the SDP, I don't know the dynamics, internal dynamic they face between Malan Nasru and the former presidential candidate. I don't know what they face. But if they choose to be part of the coalition, and Malan Nasru is aware he's part of the coalition negotiation going on. So far what we have done, the question of ambition of individual is not yet on the table. We know we'll get there. All we are telling people is that, look, the first thing you must sign on to is that your ambition is not a factor in this negotiation. First and foremost, come in, you submit yourself to basic democratic process. The party will be organized and it will set its own rule. And you, if you intend to aspire to contest, then you have to submit yourself to those rules. And if you win, fine. If you don't win, part of what all leaders in the negotiation have to subscribe is that anybody who wins will be supported by all. So these are the realities. But we are hoping by the time if we sorted out the discussion with SDP and they are in agreement, all this will not be a public issue. And which is why I state that I don't know what the dynamics is between internally inside the SDP, but this is our condition. And anybody who is going to come and disrupt that condition, we tell him no, then it means you are not going to be part of the coalition.
Mr. Lukman, isn't that a bit not looking at reality from the very beginning? Who negotiates without interest at the back of their mind? Everybody's looking at the possibility of either running as a candidate or being a running mate in that sense, and that is going to influence whatever they are going to append their signature to in that sense. So I understand that you're trying to build something, but in building that sense, politicians are driven by interest, which is why they are jumping ship all over the place. So why are you saying, make us understand why that is not on the table, by implicitly or expressly?
That is not on the table because we want to first and foremost organize the party. You don't start eating the food that you have not cooked. It's when you have the party, first and foremost. If you feel your ambition is superior to the party, then again, you don't share the vision of correcting the democratic dilemma with which Nigerians are faced with currently. And what is the democratic dilemma? A situation where everything about the democracy now is narrowed down to the question of candidates. I mean, look, this is part of the dilemma that has produced what Mr. Jacob Pele has called democratic rascality, whereby just 2 years down the line, you are already talking of adopting candidates unopposed, and yeah, the constitution of the country doesn't even matter. So I think we need to get it right. When we say people have to, we don't say you don't have the right to have your ambition. But first, your ambition has to be subordinated to the bigger rules of the party, and the party has to be formed first. And if you are committed to allow the party to be formed first, then your ambition, you should step it down now, let's form the party, and then immediately after forming the party, which in the next few weeks, people will be free.
Right. Well, Mr. Lukman, if I could just comment quickly, quite a number of issues have been raised. You've dealt with some of them. Clearly, more questions to be answered, right, as to the ruling party's endorsement of the president. Some say, well, it's tradition to give the president the right of first refusal, and it's done in other climes, right? Since you're the sitting president, naturally, you should run for president again, except you say you don't want to run. But my question is about coalitions and the path we've gone down time and again, or at least that we're currently going on. Nigerians saw a coalition in the sense of the APC when the PDP was in power, and the APC had all of the solutions in that sense, promised heaven on earth, fix power, fix infrastructure, fight corruption, improve the economy, take Nigerians out of poverty. It felt like El Dorado would elude us if we did not vote for the APC at that time. The APC had solutions to all of the problems, and at that point, it made sense. But here we are, over 8 years down the line. Even the current government is saying that they inherited a bad economy from the same party. So we've gone down this line before. Coalitions promising heaven on earth, they get there, and the story is different. So what is different about you, particularly because a major part of this coalition are part of the ruling party?
Well, first, I think are we okay now? Okay. These are the issues that we have to address, we have to correct. If you remember very well, APC came on a very high expectation. Nigerians believe us when we promised 3 things in 2014, 2015 during the campaign. And what were the 3 things? We are going to fight corruption. And of course, we had an inspirational person in the person of former President Buhari, who was his key strength at that point, which earned him the kind of followership he commanded, was his record as a military leader. The way he was very intolerant about corruption, the way he jailed virtually every politician of the Second Republic. And people expected a lot. The second thing we promised was the question of insecurity. At that point, the major problem of insecurity was more in the Northeast. The issue of Boko Haram. Of course, there were suicide bombings coming into Northwest, even up to Abuja, there were all those records. But it wasn't as much, it didn't degenerate to the level of kidnapping. Of course, we had problem of cattle rustling in Northwest and part of North Central, but over time, the situation degenerates. It was almost as if, as APC, we lost the whole fight against insecurity, and the expectation for many of us, and I keep making this point, part of my frustration was the fact that we believe a lot about the capacity of President Asuwaju. We believe that being a democratic reform, all that matters is to allow structures of both the party and democratic structures to operate, allow them to take decision, and when they take decision, they translate. Unfortunately, all that we have seen is that the situation got worse. The party even completely closed shop, and democratic structure become almost like parastatals of the presidency. The National Assembly is more or less like parastatal. Almost everything and that was how, for instance, our national anthem within an hour or so, a bill was presented to the two chambers and they passed it within, for something as sensitive as that. Now, I think addressing all of these things, which is why we are yet to start making promises. Once we get the party structures, we'll now sit down and start assessing the challenges and how we will translate them into government initiative on the basis of which the campaign messages will start coming out. So,
Mr. Saliu Lukman, because of time, I just wanted to put that in, right? So we help Nigerians manage expectations, because we're down this road yet again. But we have to thank you so much. I see you keep saying we when you talk about the APC. I know it's really tough, because it's a party you've been a part of, but who knows what the future holds. But we have to thank you so much, Mr. Saliu Lukman, former National Vice Chairman, Northwest of the APC, who is now also championing this coalition. Thank you for your time. We hope to speak to you when there are more updates in the future. Sure.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
We'll take a break now, and when we return, of course. Well, the National Publicity Secretary of the ruling All Progressives Congress, Mr. Felix Moka, joins us virtually on the program today. What a big day it was yesterday, Mr. Moka, for your party at the presidential villa, the president getting an endorsement from the National Assembly and literally everybody present there. But there is a politics of things and there is the outcome of the politics, which is the governance. But I want you to respond perhaps to some of the points raised by your friend, I imagine it's your friend, politically speaking now, Mr. Saliu Lukman, about the APC, the performance. Mr. Moka, when you look at this coalition coming up, do you fear that, wait, these are people who know us well, they know our shortcomings, they know the areas we failed, and they may just do it better if they're given the chance?
Thank you so much, Kayode. Yes, I know Lukman very well. He's a good friend of mine. We go way back in the pro-democracy movement. So we shared platforms together and coordinated efforts back in the day to upend the military dictatorship in our country. But look, we're not concerned that much about the activities of the coalition, the so-called coalition. that the opposition parties, some of the opposition parties are putting together. We're not concerned about that because we are too busy, putting our own platform together. The All Progressives Congress, as you noted, in the course of your show, we have been, the destination of choice for a number of, politicians and citizens who think and who believe that this president has, unfolded a vision that they can relate with. They see where this is going. They see that this president has embarked upon a course that is promising to set Nigeria straight, correct generational mistakes that have been made. Look, every president, raises, his right hand to take his oath out of office. He doesn't take it in association with any other president, whether of, other parties or even of his own party. He takes the oath to serve dutifully to the best of his ability. This president is doing just that. And this president must be evaluated on the basis of his record. Look, the PDP had 16 years to govern. And at the end of 16 years, it was, just point blank disaster. President Muhammadu Buhari was really a stopgap president. He set the stage for, the current president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to take charge. And that's what he's doing. So, the president is busy governing. Our party is busy doing what political parties are meant to do. I hear commentary where people say, oh, you know what, APC, why are you endorsing the president? Why is the opposition, putting together a coalition? This is a political process. We are in a political democracy. It means that the opposition will do what the opposition was meant to do, and rightfully so. They're welcome to do anything and everything, under the law and under our democratic system to, again, push the argument. The ruling party also has the same right to do what it needs to do to advance its own, case before Nigerians. So I don't think people should, just get unnecessarily hysterical about, the activities of the APC or people even joining the APC, when in fact people are, banding together under the banner of the opposition, some coalition movement, and you expect the party to be calm and quiet and act like nothing is going on. No, we won't be quiet. We will do our part, again, within the framework of the law and within the system that we operate, which is, a democratic system. So we will respond as we move on, and we will also take initiative like we did yesterday with our national summit to really bring our party together and demonstrate, our seriousness about tackling Nigeria's challenges.
Mr. Monka, before we go over to what played out yesterday, we can't just gloss over President Muhammadu Buhari's tenure. I spoke with the comrade senator. He said the economy was badly damaged. You said that PDP was a disaster. And Muhammadu Buhari's tenure, former president, was a stopgap. We're talking 8 years. Literally from the books we saw and from what the APC has told us, we're on the brink of a collapse. Literally. So how would you gloss over that and make it look like it wasn't really that much of a big deal? So he held off for President Bola Tinubu to come and take over. Maybe you have to explain that to Nigerians.
George, see, it's not hard to explain. What you are not doing, even in your summation or your framing, is you're not telling us where the economy was at the time Buhari stepped in to govern in 2015. We operated a phantom economy, an economy where votes for critical national investments and assets were literally taken and diverted to activities and to expenditures that were unknown to our budgetary process, where contractors, Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, will be awarded multiple times with no actual performance, where serious monies were appropriated but were never applied to the performance of the objectives for which those monies were appropriated. It was simply just a system that had no control. You see, look, we lived a false life as a people for 16 years. Take our exchange rate system. You know, it was simply manipulated on a daily basis.
Mr. Moka, my apologies. I do not intend to cut you so that we manage time. My question is to the administration of Muhammadu Buhari, which this leadership has said was a disaster in that sense, in our fiscal management of the economy, and which forced the president to take very hard decisions that is being criticized for today. So I'm saying you can't gloss over, quote unquote, the disaster of the administration of Muhammadu Buhari and be blaming the PDP on one. He had 8 years to do what he had to do, and look at what the President Bola Tinubu had to inherit. That's what I want you to speak to.
Joe, that's what I'm speaking to. And President Muhammadu Buhari did exactly what he needed to do, you know, during his tenure. You see, if you say, look, by the way, I don't know where you get your disaster characterization of the Buhari administration. I mean, that's, you know, I won't even interrogate where you got that from.
But you said PDP was a disaster. That's what I'm saying. I have heard members of your party said that the economy was terribly damaged, which is what informed the hard decision. I premised it properly. So I'm not choosing words carelessly.
George, I'm saying to you that the word you use of a disaster in reference to the Buhari administration, I am saying I don't know where you got that from, and so don't attribute it to, you know, to the APC. I don't know who said it, and even if anyone said it, that is their personal opinion. I'm quite sure. But the point—that's not the point. The point, George, is that the Buhari administration inherited a system that was also utterly decadent, and he managed that system to the best he could, you know, in preparation for the next administration. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is the president today, has also stepped in, and 2 years on, yesterday, I am sure you carried that program live. Even with the shortness of time, I am sure you saw the, you know, highlights of the really serious progress that we have recorded in 2 years of this president across sectors, from the economy to national security to, you know, look, you know, I know many Nigerians are waiting for everything to turn around and turn around as they desire, as they like to see. But that does not happen and never has happened in any country of the world in 2 years, or quite frankly, even in 8 years. Now, we all need to be, we know where we need to go. We all have ideas and our visions of that Nigeria that we want. But the point is that even if you take the most modest, idealistic, you know, sort of expectation of Nigerians, it is still a tall order that must be, you know, worked for. We must work for it. We must earn it. And we must build the blocks. Every indicator that is relevant today are pointing in that direction. This president and the record he has accomplished in 2 years is, you know, pointing to, I think, you know, the path that everyone agrees we need to go. A more stable, you know, economy. A serious engagement to push back and eliminate the actors that are making us unsafe in this country, which our military is doing. And we never say enough in gratitude to our military. You know, look, we all want to be safe, and it's sad when a Nigerian loses his life, either to Boko Haram or to bandits or to other criminal elements. But unfortunately, Nigeria is not, you know, does not exist in isolation of what is going on, even in our own sub-region here. We know what is going on, and we listen to it every day in the news, and it happens for those who report directly. They report what is also going on. We are not, you know, sometimes we suffer the collateral impact of what is going on elsewhere around us. But what is clear, and what I think Nuhu Ribadu yesterday, our National Security Advisor, made clear yesterday, with facts and figures, is that, you know, we are making progress. Are we totally there? Are we where we need to be? No, we're not. Nobody is under any illusion about that. We're not. But make no mistake, we are getting there. Some of the countries, Geoff, that have actually earned a place of respect, global respect today, economically speaking, even security, you know, speaking, they didn't get there overnight. China did not become a global superpower today, you know, in 10 years. It took a lot, and anybody who knows the history of China knows where they have come from. Malaysia, the same thing. You know, it was tough, but people had to put their foot down, like this president is doing, to make decisions that may be unpopular in the short term, but are necessary, are completely inevitable if you want to build a very strong economy for the future. And that is where we are headed, obviously, based on all that is unfolding in our country today.
Well, Mr. Moka, I can't help but also, piggyback on your comments on the administration of the PDP and then the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari. You say the PDP government was a disaster, but if we reflected on what the economy, was saying at the time up until, 2023 when President Muhammadu Buhari handed over, the figures speak for themselves. Inflation, for instance, was 8% when the PDP administration was handing over, but in 2023, by the time President Muhammadu Buhari was handing over, inflation figure was, 22%. And you know what inflation is saying even now under the continuing APC government. That's on the one hand. The exchange rate also speaks for itself. At the time the PDP government was handing over, it was 197 naira to the dollar. And when President Muhammadu Buhari was handing over, you know what the exchange rate was. And what is it now? It is 1,500 naira plus to the dollar. So the question Nigerians will be asking you, Mr. Moka, this morning is, you're saying other democracies, it took time for them to get to the destination. How much time does the APC government need for its unpopular policies to begin to yield result?
Thank you very much. Now, you see, I used the word phantom in reference to the economy under the PDP. It was unreal. You see, a lot of the hole that we're trying to dig ourselves out from came in that era. Now, let me explain this. It's not that complicated. Listen, what does it take for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu today to decree that Nigeria's exchange rate is 1 naira to the dollar? What does it take? It takes just a stroke of the pen to issue an executive order or send a bill to the National Assembly, anyhow they instrument it, to set Nigeria's foreign exchange rate to 1-to-1, that achieve that parity, right? It is possible by legal instrumentation. But what does that mean? Does it mean that the world today, even Nigerians today, will all of a sudden believe that 1 naira is truly and economically speaking equivalent to $1? It doesn't mean that. You see, and if the person were to do that, I bet he would gain popularity from where he is today to 90 percentile. I am sure he will, because people will say, oh, wonderful, I have 100 naira and I have $100. But that is not economics. And that would be taking Nigeria to an era that is, pre the, economic era, the, global market era. And no country of the world will take us seriously. This is what we had for generations, and which is why Nigeria never has attained its potential, because the world never considered the economy a safe destination to go with their money to invest. And no country of the world, even the United States, President Trump was just on a tour of some countries in the Gulf and elsewhere, mobilizing support for the American economy. Even the greatest economy of the world depends on investors, people bringing their money to invest in that country. Now, one of the major incentives for investment that drives investment is how you manage your currency exchange relations with other currencies. The marketplace is the globally accepted medium of moderation or modulation of foreign exchange. Now, under the PDP, this was simply manipulated. It was set. So when you say dollar was 197 that was not the value of the naira necessarily. That was a fixed value of the naira. It was a dictated value of the naira. So please, what this president has done is to float the naira, is so that we can achieve, a market-determined exchange rate that will persuade the world that Nigerian economy is a serious place where they take their money to invest, so they can, be assured of return. Return on investment is the incentive for investment, and if you don't do that, you don't get anything. And the money that we're looking for, others are looking for it. Ghana is looking for it. South Africa is looking for it. So look, my point is that
Mr. Moka,
we can't. Please, just 1 second, if you will. We cannot just, think that this is all about politics. It's not. There are other serious systems that are at play here, and the world is watching. So let's not, simply make our daily, subsistence, necessities override the critical long-term, challenges that we must overcome in order to build sustainable growth and prosperity.
all right. Well, Mr. Moka, we can go on and on about what the data says, comparing the Buhari government to the previous Jonathan and the PDP government. GDP growth used to be 7%. During Buhari, it was below 3%. GDP per capita used to be $3,000, drops to $1,200 in 2024. We can talk about inflation. The data really speaks for itself, but I understand your perspective. Naturally, you will defend the government, even oil production and the rest. But I want you to speak to something that played out yesterday, Mr. Moka, and that's President Tinubu being likened to LKY of Singapore. That's Lee Kuan Yew. It was the SGF likening him to Lee Kuan Yew, saying that, you know what, you look like that. But when you look at it closely, because a lot of people thought that's great, right? But when you look at it closely, the same LKY, Lee Kuan Yew, was often described as harboring authoritarian, nanny-like tendencies, basically intruding into personal rights and all. It was noted for issues around press freedoms, public assembly, labor activism. In fact, Mr. Moka, and I'm sure you're aware of this, that his party dominated parliament and held all the seats from 1960 to 1981, and it faced no formal opposition. Is that the President Tinubu you see as well?
No, certainly not. That's not. I think that any reference to President Tinubu in relation to the former Malaysian leader has to do with his dogged commitment to the transformation of our economy, as was witnessed in Malaysia during that era. This president is. Hello? This president is.
I think you meant to say Singapore, Mr. Moka.
I
think you meant to say Singapore. Yeah.
That is correct. Yes. My apologies. So the reference to Lee Kuan Yew is, I think, to my understanding, is simply in connection to President Tinubu's dogged commitment to radically, transforming the foundations of Nigeria's economy and to set it on that trajectory of sustainable growth. Now, you know as well as I do that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a consummate Democrat. Under his leadership, we have not seen any tendency to muscling democratic rights or freedoms or abridging constitutional liberties. That has not happened, and I know that won't happen because he himself is, he comes from that tradition. All of us who were involved in the pro-democracy movement, are cut from that tradition. And, we have enormous respect for the freedom of others to disagree. Politics of difference is something that this president believes in and is committed to. But he's a party man, and he's also a Democrat, and is the leader of a political party. And as leader of a party, yes, he desires for his party to grow, to be strong, to be able to carry out the objectives for which the party was founded. Now, what happened yesterday with...
Okay, you can land on that thought. Pardon me. You can land on that thought.
No, I was saying that what happened yesterday was simply a demonstration of, I think, that democratic will to move our party and through our party to, again, compete for the confidence of Nigerians in the next election. To
I
give
have
us
to cut in now.
the mandate
My sincere
to govern.
apologies. Because of time, we still have a whole lot of days to analyze some of the things that came out of this. So I know you had a long night yesterday, and you definitely need to catch some rest. So we appreciate that you were even able to join us to clarify some of these issues. But we'll be coming back in the coming days to have you. We've been speaking with Mr. Felix Moka, the National Publicity Secretary of the ruling APC, on some of these issues. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Moka.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we'll take a break now. When we return, we'll tone things down a bit. This is the trending sound. It just hit people like a lightning bolt. What am I talking about? Well, Gaise Baba joins us. He's made that banger tune. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
From the big conversation around politics and, let's talk about some issues around lifestyle, entertainment, creative industry in that sense. I've been joined by a gentleman whose sound has been literally popping the area, especially the gospel scene. Gaise Baba is right here with us in the studio. Gaise Baba, let's start with your real name first. What's your real name?
Akiade Ibuoye.
Amazing. So, I followed what happened with the song. It was when the song had come out, you and Lawrence Oyo, that's why I like that, yeah, whatever that shout is that he did. It caught my attention. I like TikTok. I think I saw it on TikTok also. Yeah. So, but as I listened to the song, I took my time and I had to listen from the beginning to the end. There's so many other parts of the song that people are not aware of, that are quite great. But when I listened to this, I realized that this is more like a remix of the song, right?
Yeah.
So when did you release the first one?
July last year.
July last year. Amazing. So I went to the numbers. I like numbers. I went to the numbers. I said, okay, so this song has been released. I saw, 500,000, about that number. As at the day I saw it. And then we're looking at the day I was looking at, about 72 hours later, this was almost maybe 2 million, 1.9 that or thereabout.
Yeah.
Tell us what changed. What happened? You've been around. People don't know you've been around.
If I tell you, say I know, I lie. Yeah, I've been around. I mean, this is my 15th year in the industry, in the music and entertainment industry. I'm an economics graduate. Let's put that out there. I finished from Obafemiolo University.
Great Ife.
Great Ife. In 2008. I served 2009, finished my youth service. So I qualified to rise to as high as any office in Nigeria, since it's politics you were discussing before.
So that in case they need your CV.
In case they need my CV, I served. And then right after my youth service, I got an opportunity I got a record deal opportunity. So I had to make a choice if I was going to the corporate world to join maybe like one of the big 4 consulting firms or going to music. I chose music. And so, yeah, 15 years I've been here.
And, you say you don't know what happened, but I'm sure that you're also following talk on social media about, this sound, and a video has since surfaced, about your participation at the Hallelujah Challenge of Pastor Nathaniel Bassey in 2022, prior to the release of the song, where he prophesied over your career. Are you attributing what may have happened now to back then?
Yeah, thanks, man. Good question. You have to attribute what's happening. If you want to attribute what's happening right now, it's a series of seeds, a series of events. That's a major one. But I see what happened that night, that's 11th into 12th of November 2022, as a public affirmation of dealings that I've had in my inner place, if I put it that way. You know, I don't think things just happen. You get, I can run you through how things evolved, even for me to have been at the place where Pastor Nat saw me, to know that I was around, and then ask them to ask me to come to the front.
Did you know him? Did you have a prior relationship with him before that time?
I mean, it's not like we're not close like that, but he knows me. I'm in the game. I've been in this set since 2010. We met a couple of different times. So I mean, first name basis. Yes. So I mean, which was why when he saw me, I was like, oh, Gaise, you're around. Please, Jigget. But for me to have, for our paths to have aligned at that moment is beyond. It's not random. So that's what I'm saying. So at the risk of sounding, you know, spiritual, but things are spiritual if we do say so. You get so, but that was a major event that has something to play. I believe so, which is why I took it in. If you saw my comment on his post, you see what I said I did following that night. People see what happens on the outside. They don't see what happens on the inside. And things that happen on the outside are a product of what you're doing on the inside. You get, so I just gave a bit of an expose on now the effort we make inside with this, so now as we work this thing with this, that kind of thing. Story I'm chipping in pidgin here.
It's fine.
You know, one of the things I like about you, your depth of thought, your depth of mind is very profound. I've listened to some of your interviews and I'm like, okay, this guy has to be taken seriously. It doesn't sound to me like you fly in the wall. It tells me that you have some level of depth. But now, taking that depth and putting out sounds that are not in that territory, you know, when you hear a Dunsin or Yekoya, the Nathaniel, what's that guy's name? Theophilus
Sunday.
You know, all this spiritism, okay, let me use a careful word, like that spirit movement kind of sound.
Temple sound.
If you call it that way. But you are trying to mainstream gospel, or that's the way the sound looks like. Okay, let's speak what is going on. I know Prince Emmanuel, for instance. I know one guy called Great Man Takit. I know one guy called Ocean, something.
Endless Ocean.
So, is it that because...
Ocean something.
I can't
No, I'm cool. I'm just like, endless the blue. You know, it's fine, it's cool.
No, but I knew his song before I even knew who he was. I didn't even know if I... It
usually happens like that.
Yeah, so my question is, given the fact that some of us know how deep you are, but the sound you used to convey, does it compromise the quality of your depth in that sense, if you understand my drift?
I completely understand you, and I'm happy with the question. The question makes me happy. I can talk. You know, I've been big on this for at least 2 years. I've been speaking very loudly on it on my podcast, Black Flame. And I'm saying that it is not the sound that determines how deep a song is. It is not the genre. Depth is depth. Whether it is being passed through Fuji, or being passed through jazz, or being passed through rap, or being passed through Afro beats, Afro gospel, or being passed through the temple sound. So if you listen to a song that is sung by Theophilus Sunday, if you're, you know, Christian and, you know, you vibe to that kind of music, you listen to a song by Theophilus Sunday and you're like, oh man, this song moves me, right? You can get the exact same impact even if that content is riding on a different genre, a different sound, if you get what I mean. So, I mean, I shared some time back and I was like, whether you're singing from fellowship to partnership, God and I, we can change the world, or you're singing Elijah level, Aransareju, Ferrari law, you are communicating scripture through sound. It's the genre that is different. Now, the problem that we've had in the body or in faith-based circles is because of the way people have been conditioned. People tend to elevate temple sounds as more spiritual. We're here to break that.
Okay, my colleague in Abuja, Kayode, has some questions, but we'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
All right.
You're welcome back to the program. We still have with us Gaise Baba. He's live in our Lagos studio. I must say, as an aside, I look forward to you crossing over into politics. You've given us your CV, so it'll be great to see you in politics. Since your song is now mainstream, it has crossed from gospel to mainstream, so it'll be great to see you in politics, just as an aside. But let's get back to your music. And at this moment, I want to just go down a memory lane and maybe sing some of your songs. Little drops make an ocean. Every little step that we take, moves that we make. I mean, you did that. You did follow. I mean, your songs from way back then, they were deep. They were very, you know, conscious songs. And I must say that it's great to see your trajectory. You stayed at it. You did your own thing. Now the world is sort of catching up. My question to you is gospel music now the new mainstream music?
Thank you, Kayode. And nice one. I can see you're enjoying Abuja. Is gospel music now the mainstream? It's a tricky question. Very tricky, because the mainstream is still like popping, but everyone can see, and even the industry is paying attention to the fact that some of the biggest songs we've had this year are gospel. We've had Favor, we've had Will Be Many, now we have No Turning Back too, you know. And even the industry knows that for the last maybe like 1 to 2 years, Afrobeats hasn't had a breakout artist. So the industry is scrambling for newness. And I tweeted, I think earlier this year or late last year, I posted a tweet and I said in Yoruba, Afrobeats this shit here, Afro gospel will come by. Which means Afrobeats has had its run. It's time for Afro gospel. And I still said it because I had a nomination on the Headies Awards and I was asked about it. I said it again. I said it might sound distant to you, but people should just pay attention and listen and see how things are evolving, how things are playing out. You know, it'll be like a dream. The world don't know what's coming. So what we see right now is still the tip of the iceberg. This mountain is going to be exalted above all the mountains on the earth. And I say that with every sense of assuredness, you know. And people come from all over the world to say, we want to see what you have. We want to experience what you have. Because you will not be able to gainsay the results. You'll not be able to argue. It will be clear. It will be clear that this is white. And what we've been shouting about since is cream. I'll leave it like that.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Amazing. Gaise Baba, I mean, you see content in that song with Lauren. Sorry, I'm talking content creators that were known to do certain kind of content, right? Now they're using that song, and it's just amazing to see the numbers it is doing. And that's why I asked that question. I mean, I wanted to be in Lagos for this conversation, but, you know, life happens. But I don't want to rob our viewers of a little bit of I Have Decided this morning. Because, hey, it's like the biggest song in Nigeria, by extension in Africa today. And we have you on the show. So I want to make the most of it. Jeffrey and Bukola will be the backup singers. I'll be the vixen here in Abuja. But let's do a part of it on the show this morning.
Come on now. You have
this dance. I'm looking forward to that dance.
When we get, no, Kayode has a bigger baritone. when we get to that, that's the part I want to do. So just remind me.
We can as well just start from there.
Okay, share that.
Yeah. I will never turn back.
No.
It's already too late.
No.
It won't make sense.
No.
Where am I going to?
No.
It's already too late.
No.
I've already come too far.
No.
And there were 2 lines that were in the voice note. This is exclusive gist. There were 2 lines that were in the voice note that Lawrence Oyo sent to me that didn't make it to the record.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was, What will I tell Jesus? I cannot waste that blood. It's like, but Lawrence is a vibe.
Yeah,
He's very spiritual, very anointed, but he's a vibe. Who was I speaking with? I was speaking with the producer.
I wanted to even come to the question of how you and Lawrence, because Lawrence has a very, permit me to use the word, irregular, it sounds like just jago.
How we break
jugular.
And the chant, you know.
And the chant.
That he did in the spirit in that song also added another level to it.
I mean, everything was, and it was live. It was live on stage.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was live. He had written his lines. So the lines that he had written were the, we will burn the world, we will
shift the culture.
We'll spend the billions, we'll spend for Jesus till we shift the culture, right? So he had written those lines that morning, by the way. It wasn't way back. It was that morning on his way to service that he wrote those lines. And then when we got on stage, he then was just ad-libbing all those, I will never turn back. He's already to it, right on stage. The chant is like right there, you get.
Not premeditated.
Not premeditated. I mean, he's used to chanting.
Yeah.
You get. So if you see someone who's freestyles, if you see a rapper who freestyles, the rapper is freestyling from a bank. It's not that those words are new. There is a bank of several words that is in the person's heart.
Okay.
So the person is just pulling out rhymes and just making it work. So that's how it is for him with chants. You know, yes, it's spiritual, but then there's a skill to it as well, because you can see the melody and the words play and the bounce on the beats. It's still fresh, which is what, I mean, it messes with people's minds. Like, how do you chant rap? How do you, like, who be this guy?
Was he speaking in tongues?
Yeah, he was. So kind of asked an important question earlier on, and you answered in the affirmative that Afro soul is taking over, Afro gospel is taking over Afrobeat. One significant line.
Over Afrobeats deal. Afrobeats what they're doing thing, right? But I said Afrobeats has run its course.
It's not time for new song.
Time for Afro gospel. That's what I said.
So one significant line from, you know, Lawrence Oyo's chant is so we shift the culture.
Exactly.
And somebody has been reflecting on that, and that got me thinking as well. This is what is happening with our youth, you know, embracing a pop culture. But are they reflecting on the words in that song? No turning back. It's like a calling to covenant. So beyond this new culture, are the youths aware, you know, of the implications, such that it's not just an embrace of this hip, holy lifestyle, but the implications of it? I wonder if you're thinking about that as well.
If you can answer in 30 seconds.
I'll try. Yes, I say yes. These are not random, playful people. These are young people on fire for God who at the same time love to have a great time. Last year, we had a retreat for creatives. It's called Foxes on Fire. 3 days on a fast, praying, receiving word, receiving instruction. See, what's coming? And that's what I'm saying. You see what is coming? You've seen Gaise. Gaise is a foretaste. Gaise is, I dare say, I'm like someone who breaks open the ground.
Like a harbinger.
Something like that. What is coming? Young people who are cooked, who are on fire, but then they're on dreads. They're on ripped jeans. Some might have studs. When they burst, you hear utterance. So the world has not seen this kind before.
So that's a shift.
Even the old generation is struggling to understand it. It's a new movement. These are not loafers. These people aren't sleeping around. They have consecration that beats some of the consecrations that precedes them. So you're just looking at, people are looking on the outside, seeing tinted hair. Do you know my consecration? Do you know what I do in the secret place? If you hear my words, you know that I'm no random person. This is because there's a new generation I'm connecting with. I'm as deep, as anointed, as called, and as sent as any father of faith you have seen in the history of time.
I like the passion. And stay the course. I think that's the only advice I'll give to you and to the successor generation who are championing or at the vanguard of this. Stay the course. Gaise Baba, it's always a delight to have you. I've always said that. I've listened to you. And I think I can say you're not a random person. your depth is beyond the shallow waters. But thank you for coming on the program. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, guys, that's it on the program. It's Friday. I always advise, make sure you have yourself a very beautiful weekend. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. Goodbye.
Thank you so much for watching. Have yourselves a restful weekend. I'm Bukola Koka.
And if you're one of those young people still cooking, don't worry. The world is ready very soon. So keep cooking. Have a great weekend. I'm Kayode Okikelu. Remember, no turning back.